I mean, sometimes people mumble, that's fine, but at least Biden can complete sentences and speaks intelligently, unlike the current president. So a little mumbling compared to what we've had in the White House for the last 2 years it's minuscule.
It's better to mumble than be candid.
Hmm?
It's better to mumble than be candid.
Yes.
Keean Bexte here for Rebel News in New York City, just outside of Joe Biden's campaign stop, where he's going to be talking about foreign policy, something that he hasn't touched on too much in this campaign. And he is one of the front runners, if not the front runner of the Democratic presidential nomination. So everyone's going to be interested to hear what he has to say. I'm going to head into the building and see if I can get in with the rest of the media here today. So Joe Biden started this event with not much ceremony. He walked in. There was a bit of applause with the small crowd in the top of this graduate students' tower here in New York City. There was no national anthem sang. It certainly wasn't like the arenas of people that President Donald Trump brings out to his announcements. There were some gaffes in this speech. He was coughing a lot. He was mumbling a lot. I heard reports on Twitter that he was aging and wasn't able to get his message across and articulate himself very well, and that turned out to be quite true. There were times when it appeared he was quite tired. He was stumbling over his words. You can see for yourself.
We believe in free speech. That's why I'll end the gag rule, the global gag rule that prevents money from getting to NGOs. We have to be honest about excuse me. Our trade policy has started home by strengthening our greatest asset, the middle class. For when it does well, everyone does well. He has, I don't know how to say it, he's alienated us. We need to work again with Canada and Mexico as neighbors, not as adversaries, like 5G, artificial intelligence. What am I doing?
Now, he was rushed out without speaking to media. I don't know why. I don't know if he's scared of the media here in New York, but he certainly wasn't open to chatting. His agents brought him into the back door and whisked him away. I wasn't able to ask him much, but I was able to ask attendees what their thoughts were on this announcement, or lack thereof. He didn't really speak much about anything. He kind of rambled on and on, but didn't really come to any sort of thesis or foundational platform plank that he was announcing. He just sort of talked a little bit about everything. So I'm going to ask the attendees here what they took away from it. Joe Biden's foreign policy announcement. Can you tell me what was the takeaway from it? What did he announce?
So he basically shared his foreign policy plans and geared towards the middle class. He talked a lot about the role of the middle class in his view of foreign policy.
But what was the view? What was the takeaway?
The takeaway is that domestic policy has to also work toward foreign policy and vice versa, and for that you need to share it with everyone and everybody, including the middle class. So he elevated the middle class to an important role within the foreign policy context. I was more interested in learning about his plans towards Latin America and Mexico specifically.
Can you tell me, what did he just announce?
Well, he just announced that he's going to restore essentially diplomacy to the world, kind of return us to the Obama era, because Trump has unfortunately alienated a lot of our allies and has coddled with dictators. And I think Biden's got a good set of prescriptions for the country and for the world.
What was the announcement?
He spoke about more unity, and what we have to do is reestablish our place in the world, that we have been diminished so much by the Trump administration that nobody believes us anymore, and we have absolutely zero credibility, and he is going to reestablish that.
Were you concerned with how much he was mumbling?
No, I wasn't, because I think that it could be a strength, just because one of the things that people love about Trump is that he goes off script and is not very poised and polished, and he kind of just does his own thing. And I think Biden is a perfect example of that. I mean, sometimes people mumble, that's fine, but at least Biden can complete sentences and speaks intelligently, unlike the current president. So a little mumbling compared to what we've had in the White House for the last 2 years it's minuscule.
It's better to mumble than be candid.
Hmm?
It's better to mumble than be candid.
Yes.
What was his announcement?
He wanted to make sure that America was going to be more inclusive within the world, restoring democracy through increased partnerships was the main takeaway that I got from the speech.
How is he going to do that?
He said that within his first year he was going to be holding a summit with other world leaders and then another summit with other world leaders and democracies to increase the democratic backslide that's been so prevalent across Europe, and then also to hold another one to hold climate change polluters accountable.
What is he going to do exactly?
He's going to reestablish our ties with our allies and not alienate people by tweet, and speak to them as they deserve to be spoken to, not be spoken down to the way they have been doing.
So his foreign policy announcement can be summed up by he will not tweet as much?
Well, he'll treat our allies with respect and be harder on the people who are not with the oligarchs and not with the people who are against us, and we won't be sucking up to the people who are against us, and he'll be more powerful by our allies instead of alienating our allies.
I mean, I know it's difficult to address like all issues at one point. I was expecting a little bit more of development in that regard, but I guess we'll learn.
How is he different than the rest of the Democratic candidates? I mean, all of them would say the same thing. Let's restore America on the world stage. Let's restore diplomacy. Did he say anything about specifics about how he would do that?
Well, I think he's different because he's actually done it. He's the only person on that stage who's been a vice president, who's been a part of one of the most progressive administrations in our country's history. He was very instrumental with a lot of Obama's policies. He was right beside Obama for 8 years. I disagree with some of Obama's policies too, but he has actually done it. People like Bernie Sanders, well, what they say sounds good to some. Unfortunately, he hasn't really done much. When you look up his record in the Senate, he's only gotten a few bills that he started passed through the Senate, and those bills were not exactly humongous compared to some of the other things that the Senate does. They had to do more with post offices and renaming post offices.
Now, I think I might be more confused now than I was at the end of his speech. After speaking with attendees, it is clear that there was no thesis to this foreign policy announcement, just platitudes and mumbling. The people who received the message didn't really have a clear understanding of what this was about or what the purpose of it was. Everyone kind of took something different from it. Many people just took nothing at all from it. The one thing I took from it was when Joe Biden said this.
No country, even one as powerful as ours, can go it alone in the challenges of the 21st century. They respect no borders and cannot be contained by any walls.
Did you hear that? He said he will not be respecting borders or walls. How can a candidate be running for the presidency of the United States with messaging like that? He went a little bit off script there, I think. I certainly don't think that was a planned thing to say, because that really pushes Biden pretty far left, and he's been trying to ride the center throughout this campaign. Can you imagine in 2019, in 2020, having a president who says that they don't care about the southern or the northern border for that matter? It's unbelievable. Now, keep in mind, this former vice president, now presidential candidate, will be 79 years old if he is ever sworn in as president of the United States, putting him at 83 at the end of his term. It's pretty old, if I do say so myself, and it might be the cause of some of his coughing and mumbling and him being quite incoherent throughout this speech and not being able to convey a message and communicate effectively with his voters and his supporters, most importantly. I think it's going to cause him some problems throughout this campaign, so we'll have to be watching carefully, just as we were watching Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. For the Rebel.media, I'm Keean Bexte. Hey, thanks for watching our coverage here at Joe Biden's foreign policy announcement. If you want to stay up to date with everything as it happens, be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheRealKeean.